I think it's always good to audit your week. So if you're somebody who is listening to the podcast today and is like, I'm not being productive, nothing is going my way.
To our podcast. You should be working.
No, you shouldn't be. This is actually, because I'm hoping this will make a really good use of your time. Just look back on the week, look back on the previous week that you had, and write down whether or not, one, you got enjoyment out of the things that you were doing. Two, whether you were doing something that showed up for your future self, so that future person who you need to start caring about. Or three, was there something that like you didn't enjoy it at all, and you're pretty sure that no one around you enjoyed it? And those three things. So basically, am I enjoying it in the moment? Is it something that I'm enjoying in the future, or are there things that I'm doing that aren't adding any value to me? Those three classifications can really help you, because firstly, those things that you're showing up for that aren't adding any value to you, you should try to get rid of them. So, sometimes people will realize I'm in a really terrible relationship. I'm dating someone, and every time I show up, I'm terrified to go in, but I'm also terrified to leave. And maybe that's a big decision that you need to make. Others will realize that they're spending time in meetings that just really aren't productive, that they're not sure that it's useful. So maybe you need to do something differently.
So how do you have any like practical tips on how people can doom scrolling on Instagram, for example? That thing it appears in my hand and I'm just there deep in the Insta and I'm like, how did this even happen? So it's almost like non-conscious.
I set an alarm that says like when you've reached an hour of Instagram every day, and like some days it's like 11 o'clock and it's like, you've had 1 hour. I'm like, I've only been awake for 3 hours.
I've been awake 5 minutes.
I'm like, yeah, sometimes that happens. I'm like, I've been awake for half an hour. It's like, oh, I must have been using it last night before bed. So like, it's crazy. And I seen this thing online. There's like a box you can put your phone in and lock it.
I've got one of those.
Do you?
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah, I smashed it with a hammer.
Because you lock your phone in there and like you can't access it for like 2 hours. But I definitely would just smash it open. I'm like, I need to know what's going on Instagram.
Is there? What does the science tell us about breaking that?
I mean, in honesty, I think if you can delete the app, you should go for it. Which I can see you crowning.
What if it's your business?
So no, but separate them. So if you can, even if it's an old iPad or an old phone, if you can afford to have an old iPhone for your personal, and then for your business is the one that you invest in, and they're held separately. So you're constantly choosing to be on Instagram, and I think that's the problem. Doom scrolling, people aren't consciously choosing to be on it. They're basically picking it up, and it's the fast brain is making the choice. What you want it to be is that, okay, I now have to go and get this other phone. So now, okay, consciously you're thinking, do I really need to doom scroll on Instagram now, or am I actually going on it where I'm going to enjoy it, or it's going to be productive for me? But digital detoxes are hard, just like coming off alcohol, drugs, or anything else that's addictive, but definitely worth it.
So the point that you made there is it's putting that little thought in. I know that there's an app where you can input all the different apps that you don't like on your phone in it. And every time you go on them, it's like, are you sure you want to go on this? And it just counts down from 3. And that just makes you go, oh no, yeah, forget it. So it's about putting these breaks in to stop it being the system 1. Is it right? System 1 is fast, system 2 is slow.
Exactly. So what we're doing is increasing the cost of going on Instagram. So the example of having it on a separate device means that you have to actually go somewhere else, pick it up, and make a conscious decision. The app that's telling you, are you sure you want to do this, again, is increasing the cost, and it's making salient to you. So it's making it very obvious to you the choices that you're making might not necessarily be right for you at the moment. So both of those, and I think that's a really good example. That's a really kind of good analogy for any habit that you're trying to change. How can I, if I want to break a habit, how can I make it more costly to do it? And also, how can I increase the benefits of not doing it on the other side and make the good behaviors easier? So, if you want to go to the gym in the morning, and if you're somebody who hates going to the gym, having your trainers and your tracksuit laid out so that there's actually no excuse that as soon as the alarm goes, you're not kind of procrastinating, okay, where are my clothes? And you're fumbling around. You make it as easy as possible to actually get there. If the gym, if you're somebody who's lazy, should be very near your house rather than far away. So again, you don't have the cost of the time of getting into the car. All excuses that you'll reach for when you're feeling tired.
My gym's close by and I still drive there. It's like a 2-minute walk and I'm like, it's cold, I'm driving to the gym. I've never walked to the gym ever, to be fair. Probably should just run there, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I have to have the gym within 5 minutes, otherwise I won't go. I had one once that was half an hour and I just never went, because then it's like, oh, it's going to take an hour there and back and an hour there.
By the time I get there, I have all these things to do. So I think it's also worth kind of thinking about your lazy self. So when you're lazy, when you're not feeling well, when you're feeling tired, what are the things that will actually make it much easier for that person? And also, if you can, starting the habit when you're feeling bad, which sounds counterintuitive because we all wait for the day that we feel great. But you're never going to have problems showing up for yourself when you feel great, are you? It's those horrible days. So if you kind of say, yeah, look, tomorrow is a day where I'm planning on going out with my friends. I'm probably going to be slightly hungover. That's the day I'm going to go to the gym because my baseline is going to be I show up for myself when I feel rough. Yeah.
So there's an example like in my world. What I do most of the time is I script. And I can easily tell myself that I don't feel inspired, that I don't feel creative, that to script. Because what I have to do is sit down and just stare at a blank Google Doc and it's just going to come out of me. But I find that if I actually break that and I sit down, I then become inspired. Does that make sense? It's that first thing. It's like the hardest thing is getting to the gym. Once you're there, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's great. It's that little making myself just sit down and open a Google Doc and not clean the house or whatever. Have you got anything to help people take that first step?
Well, what you describe is really in line with the Pomodoro technique. Have you heard of this? So this is where there's an app for it now, but you used to be able to buy like a tomato, I'm sure you can still buy it, that had a 15-minute timer and that you sit down to work and you put on the timer. And when the timer goes off, you're meant to stop. You're meant to stop, take a 5-minute break and walk around. And what people find is that if you're scripting, if you're in the middle of something else, if you're in flow, the brain really hates that. So it's itching to get back. So that 15 minutes is all you actually need to get you going. So instead of saying I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work for 4 hours today, you say I'm just going to do 15 minutes and see where it goes. And usually, if you manage to make a start, if you manage to write a few lines, the brain will bring you back because it will want to finish that section. It's very hard if you're a writer, if you script, if you write songs, if you're creative, to stop when something is half done.
It's the best feeling in the world, that flow. And
it is.
Yeah, once it's coming out of just pours out of you. But like you say, you got to get to there and it takes 5-10 minutes. So rather than thinking, I'm going to script for half a day now, you think I'm just going to do a script for 5-10 minutes and see where it goes.
And you leave the time, so you don't fill the time. So you basically say, look, I have a day free today, so I'm going to start my day with 15 minutes. I'm going to put on my timer and I'm going to get straight in and I'm going to give myself a chance. And then timer goes off, you take your break and you make a decision about whether or not you stay.
Because one thing that I tend to do is put it off. And then it's the deadline, my own enforced deadline that doesn't exist is approaching. So then it's like, I've got to do it all now in 6 hours. And it's not the best work as a result.
I think as a plan, people can leverage what we call the compromise effect, where you don't say, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do a full day's work, and I'm going to commit myself to doing 9 hours, even though you know that you've never done 9 hours before.
I do that every day and I've never done 9 hours.
But you say there's 3 levels of work. There's 9 hours, which is the maximum. There's 4, which will put me at average, and there's 15 minutes that will put me at low. And actually, once I do one of those, I'm happy with myself. And you tick that off. And most people will end up hitting average. Most people will end up hitting the 4 hours in flow with that model. Because again, if you think about how you train your brain, none of us actually want to be below average. So once we hit average, we're happy to walk away and say, day done.
Okay. And do you find that with a big goal in mind, that being average and consistent will get you there?
I do. I mean, we've already mentioned that you just need to be slightly better than what everyone else is doing. And, the good thing about if you're creating something is you just need to be slightly different as well. So all of us are unique. So hopefully you can actually leverage that uniqueness to bring something new. But the one thing that people don't do is show up consistently. So if you're one of the people who's showing up consistently, if you're creating consistently, if you're learning something consistently, you will get to where you want to be. You just can't break that consistency.
If, like me, you need to make big changes in your life, check out this episode with Dr. Grace Lorden.